Welcome to the Modern Saxophonist Podcast. I'm your host, Mark MacArthur. And today you are in for a treat because we have the newly deemed Dr. Nathan Mertens. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Congratulations on getting through all the necessary hoops to complete the DMA.
Thanks. It's relatively new. I just finished last Tuesday, so pending revisions, I will graduate in May. So.
Hey, there you go. There you go. And so I have to say that actually I got to ask, what in this process that's happened, just this fresh new getting through all the defense and everything else like that. What would you say right now in this? What are you feeling at this point, being just a couple weeks removed?
Yeah, I guess everyone keeps asking me, do you feel any different? Does anything feel any different? And I guess I just feel exactly the same. I don't think it's really sunk in that 10 years, I've been working for this, goal of getting a doctorate for 10 years, and I don't think it's really sunk in that I'm done with school. I mean, I'm almost 28 years old, and I've never known life without school, and so it's going to be an interesting transition as I, finish school and I'm moving to Japan and starting that new life, and how my whole life was going to be, I guess you could say, without school. So I'll keep you posted on how I'm feeling.
Sounds good. And just in case no one knows out there, you've been studying at UT Austin.
That's correct.
And with Stephen Page there. So what's life been like in Austin there?
The Austin is great. The saxophone scene is actually really, really thriving here. I play with the Austin Saxophone Ensemble, which is a professional saxophone ensemble in the Austin area. Our last concert just 2 weeks ago, we did Rite of Spring.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I mean, we're the second ensemble next to Eastman to do it. We did it without conductor, but we used music, so we weren't that adventurous. I teach a lot. I have probably 25 private students, and most of the grad students at UT, we have those sort of numbers of students, and the kids are great. I also work for Jess Voigt Page at Saxophone Academy Austin. We do summer camps, and it's just it's a scene where saxophone and music is something that's well respected within the community. So, and then on top of it, the thriving saxophone studio here at UT, Dr. Page is really making waves. Not only in Austin, just in the saxophone community in general, and it's a hot young studio. So yeah,
cool, very cool. Yeah, that's what I hear. And being a former band director, of course there's only two things in Texas: football and band.
Yeah,
and
and tacos. You're not wrong. So.
Oh, that's true. That's true. We got some pretty good ones here in Las Vegas as well. Those tacos, but it's so funny to think about that. And I was even talking to my wife the other day, going, just talking about Texas. I'm like, what's funny is, like, if I really wanted a full private studio and do everything, I'd just move to Texas.
Yeah,
because Those band directors sure do know how to inform the students of what a value a private lesson does for not only their musicianship, but just that personal attention, what it does for their even personal growth and focus on just getting it done right.
Yeah.
So
sometimes I have to remind myself that my students are, only 13 years old, where I just taught a student yesterday where he's playing all major scales from memory, full range, and he's in the 8th grade, and I'm talking to him about evenness of tone quality, and sometimes I was not at that level when I was in the 8th grade, and so, this is the norm here, which is, it's exciting and kind of refreshing. So yeah, we're very, very lucky to be teaching here.
Oh my gosh, that's really exciting, especially if that is actually a norm. I mean, and that takes time to build that in. I think here in the Las Vegas area, there's several students now who are running their full range majors. It's kind of like they're getting the clue that if you really want to make honor band or all state, that if you're in that kind of shape, there's a good chance you're above the cut. Everybody's kind of getting that picture and understanding that. But man, at the 8th grade, there you go, man. That's sweet. Fuzzy Bird's Nest. There you go.
Yeah, right.
That always amazes me, is seeing the level of students that are out there right now that happen to start taking up some of this amazing literature and are just flying through it, because I don't know, for some reason the teachers, it's not. I think of it because I have to check myself too, because some of my students who are not of the college level, they it's just like, well, this is the next step. And if somebody accomplishes that step quickly, it's just the next step happens. It's not like an age thing, to be honest. And that's where you have to pinch yourself, because if you got a 13-year-old, being able to do what you just said, it's just the next step gets to happen. And yes, I mean, and that's the dangerous thing is, gauging yourself as far as your expectation, because you don't want to put too much on them, but then they just take it on and they just keep on doing it. And I love that these days. I mean, I remember when I was growing up, I was lucky to get through all 12 majors just doing one octave, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
I was in the same boat.
I mean, and I would, what was my saving grace was the Jerry Coker book, and playing a lot of patterns for jazz, and doing that kind of work. Where I was working on my improvisation in high school, so I didn't even know about full range. So my spatulas and my palm keys were a little bit rough, but everything else, I was trying. I was doing my best, and then I hit college, and I went, oh no.
Yep.
So well, have a feeling that there's in what you're doing right now. You're preaching the gospel of sax pretty well, and so much so, you're heading to Japan.
That's correct.
Man, when I saw that post, I went, folks. He posted on Facebook a notification that you've gotten a scholarship to go study. I can't remember the name of the university, but you're going to be studying with Masato Kamoi. Yeah,
I'll be studying with him at the Kunitachi College of Music in Tokyo.
Man, that is wonderful. That is wonderful. And so in this, can you tell us a little bit of how you got this scholarship and what did you have to do?
Yeah, so the scholarship, it was my probably, I applied for 4 or 5 scholarships in the past 2 or 3 years, grants, fellowships, and made the finals, or wasn't even awarded anything. And this was kind of my last shot. It was the only one that I found out about that was large enough to fund everything. And I discovered it late in the game last year. It was probably April or May, and the application was due in June. So I frantically got all my materials together for that, and your typical application, they need name, address, education, and then they need why you want to do what you need to do, and that was only a 2-page little request or little write-up that I had to do, and then I had to submit recordings because all the artists have to submit some sort of medium, and so I submitted recordings and then sent that to the Japanese consulate, and that was in June, and the Japanese consulate was in Houston. I received notification from them that I passed to the next round and that they were going to interview me in person in Houston. So luckily that's only a 3-hour drive for me. So I went to Houston and did an interview with 3 Japanese government officials there. And in addition, I had to take an English exam and a Japanese exam. The English exam as a native speaker was pretty easy, and the Japanese exam was divided up into elementary, intermediate, and advanced. And I barely skidded by through the elementary level of the Japanese exam. And the intermediate and advanced, I was pretty much lost. But it's not so much about being fluent, it's a willingness to learn, and then they just want basically an understanding of how much Japanese that you had. So I was a little worried about not knowing enough Japanese to pass to the next round. So this is now July. A few weeks later, I received a letter that said the consulate was going to sponsor me, which was wonderful. So
that's huge.
Yeah, and so they then told me I had 30 days to get a university to sponsor me in Japan. And I needed to not only have the university sponsor me, but they had to mail signed paperwork back from Japan. So really I had roughly 2 weeks to get that all taken care of. So I notified 3 universities, Musato Kumoi at Kunitachi. I contacted Hiroshihara at Tokyo College, College of Music, and then Masato Ikegami at Sensaku Gakuen College of Music. And due to the way school works over there, a lot of them were worried about accepting me because they're conditionally accepting me based on absolutely no audition, which is not really their style. And a lot of the admissions workers were not so keen on accepting me because their school year starts in April. So we're all So ours starts in the fall, and the school year starts in April, and auditions are in February. Well, that didn't really work with the timeline of the paperwork, but
right.
Yeah, Musato Kumoi and all of the administrators at Kunitachi were super great, and they filled out the paperwork and mailed it back right away. And so I submitted that to the consulate general in Houston, and all my paperwork was finished, and then they sent it off to Tokyo in September. And then radio silence from September until January when I received the notification that I was awarded the scholarship. So, yeah, it was a long
Congratulations.
process. Thank you. So,
yes.
I mean, it got to the point that, after you apply for so many things, you think, oh, well, I haven't heard anything, so I probably just didn't get it. And so I had started planning my life as if, was I going to get an academic job, or was I going to stay and teach in Austin, or what was going to happen? And so that email was, congratulations. Oh, and by the way, you're moving in April. So, life has been a little busy trying to finish my doctorate and move to, a foreign country 7,000 miles away.
Right. And if there isn't, for my experience of a lot of folks who have received their doctorate, that the end can be one of the most difficult things. So the delay, you actually got a little spark plug put in there for you to really wrap this thing up and make sure that it's all taken care of.
Exactly. I'm trying to tie as many bows on everything before I leave. So.
Perfect. I like that. And so now, in all that mad rush and doing anything, have you gotten any indication as far as what's going to be happening, what you're going to be doing over there, what you're going to be studying, or obviously it's in saxophone, but any details of the program or anything that's going to be happening yet? Yeah.
Well, the first 6 months that I'm there, I won't be studying saxophone, I guess, formally. I'll be studying at Tokyo University of Foreign Studies. So they require most of us, if our Japanese isn't of a certain fluency level, to take Japanese. So I'll be enrolled in Japanese language courses and cultural courses, and just trying to understand the workings of, Japan more than I guess I do now. And so it'll be 6 months of kind of just being immersed within the culture, so that way the research is better as I continue on. And then as far as the research component of of my time in Japan, it's all very independent as to what I want to get out of it. And so Masato Kumoi and Kunitachi is essentially just my hub, where I'll be able to kind of do a foundation of my research, and then I plan to take as many lessons with as many Japanese saxophonists as possible, and then to see if they'll allow me to watch a day's worth of lessons. And the goal is, hopefully I'll kind of pick up their different teaching styles, or pedagogically how they're teaching slightly different than we're doing in America. Because as many of us know, Japan is kind of this elusive thing that many of us know of Sugawa and Hiroshi Hara and all these incredible young saxophonists, but we don't know much about the way they teach, or there aren't a whole lot of method books that are translated to English for us. So I want to be the guy on the ground, kind of taking charge and figuring out what they're doing, if anything, and then see if I can bring any of that back to America.
Well, I think it's all applicable, to be honest. I mean, I've been listening to some of these guys play for years now, and it's just it just amazes me the uniqueness, one of their tone qualities, and two, the enthusiasm to which the saxophone is treated over there in Japan. And so they're doing something that is well worth looking into, and I'm so glad that you get to be our ambassador.
Yeah, it's an exciting and slightly daunting task. So,
well, I think I have to say, knowing you, I would say you're the right man for the job.
Well, thanks.
So with that, like, in traveling around, taking lessons and doing this, are you? And I'm not even really quite. I'm only slightly fluent in kind of the system over there. So just in going to Midwest at times, seeing these middle school bands that are, made up of either all girls or all boys, and here they are playing some of the most advanced literature that most high school teachers here in America wouldn't even consider attempting, and they're doing it all from memory. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, do you happen to know anything about part of the system, how early they start, what anything even currently that, or even that's interesting to you? Like I guess I'm interested in knowing, like when they start the saxophone, what are the, like how early are they starting, and what are they doing to get these kiddos to like be able to be at that level so early?
Yeah, I think it has to do a lot with the band program. I mean, much like band in Texas kind of pushes the level of all instrument playing, I think the expectation for band in Japan being so high, it kind of pushes all the players to just be the best they can. While I took one of my bibliography course here at UT, I kind of did some minimal amount of research about Japanese band programs, and it's the amount of time that they put in is above and beyond Texas marching band, which is a lot, to say the least. The students are there on Saturdays, sometimes upwards to 8 hours on Saturdays. On Sundays, they have morning rehearsals, they have regular band class, and then evening rehearsals. So if you're in band is what you do. But they do a nice job of making band a community. So all the sixth graders have maybe an eighth grader that teaches them, that has helping them out, and kind of makes it, you would never want to disappoint your older mentor, and so they're teaching you how to play, and then you're going to practice not only for yourself but not to disappoint your mentor and then your other colleagues in the section. Now, in terms of private lessons, I know very little as to how much is being taught from is there a professional saxophonist coming in and teaching, or is it just the band directors that are just well versed in all the instruments, or if they're having clinics, master classes. So hopefully I'll get some time in some of the younger bands to kind of figure out what they're doing, because that influences saxophone performance in 20 years as much as taking private lessons.
Right. And I'm a product of, I did have a private lesson teacher when I was in high school, but he was a clarinet professor. So in a lot of ways, for a lot of my, what would be considered classical training when I was in high school, most of it came from my band director and from the demand that was placed on us. And I think that's one of the, I would definitely be interested in finding that out. And I think in looking at that culture, man, it's interesting to think about the cultural aspect, because what you just said to me, first of all, 8 hours on a Saturday with sixth graders.
Yeah.
Right now I teach a band at a private school, and I'm teaching sixth graders right now. I don't want to be in a room with them for 6 hours.
Yeah, it takes a special
that scares
type of
me
person.
right now. And I think in America, you'll look at that, and it almost seems like just in that little bit, like our culture is a little bit opposite, where it's not that we don't want to disappoint our person, somebody who's mentoring us above. It's almost like we have to do the opposite of what that person does, because we have, I don't know, coolness factor or whatever it happens to be, or maybe ADHD or something else that we define. I'm just sitting here going like they get these guys to sit in a room for 8 hours doing music when they're in sixth grade. I mean, we're talking 10 years old, and they can handle that.
Yeah.
And
it's amazing, because when the wind ensemble, the UT Wind Ensemble, went to Japan, we went to Asia 3 years ago, and we had a rehearsal in Japan, and it was at this all-girls high school, and they watched our rehearsal for 3 hours, and they all sat there. No one talked, no one got up, no one moved. They just sat and watched us rehearse for 3 hours, where if in America, I'm not quite sure you could get, a whole band to sit there and be quiet for 5, 10, 15 minutes, let alone 3 hours, and, no one really move at all. So there's I think culturally, there's a lot that influences music that will be a little bit more difficult to change when I bring back, but I think there's some things that can be gleaned from just the way Japanese society is structured that would make music a little bit, we could advance at the same level as them. So,
yeah, I think, and then how to build that culture coming from an American standpoint.
Yeah.
To start looking at that. I even have to say that, like, part of the interest is getting a little bit of inner working to the point where we can use, because one of the most effective tools in teaching is modeling, and so when we can actually see what's happening in these rehearsals, what kind of attention span, what kind of when something is being requested. I mean, how many times, Nathan, have we requested from our students to practice X, and they go and do
anything
nothing
but X.
anything but X, and we tell them everything else is not going to work until you do X, and they don't believe you until you practice for them in a lesson, walk them through it, prove to them without a shadow of a doubt there is absolutely no way that they could even try to do anything else and get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at that and you think about the incredible amount of time that's wasted in that process. But even still yet, you've got a 13-year-old that apparently listens to you, and and turns around and is doing all the right things. So I think it does come down to personal choice. I think it's just, I definitely have to say, from a structural standpoint, the Japanese certainly seem to have a secret that we do not currently have the ability to do on a collective whole. And that's, man, I'm really interested. Now, for our listeners, I'm just Nathan and I discussed just before coming on the podcast just how we are going to track this through, and sometime this next year, maybe sometime around this time frame, before you get started on the next year, we can. We're going to have you come back on and talk about a little bit of the progress and maybe perk some ears up as far as what's happening.
Yeah, of course.
Cool. And so with it, like, I'm looking at this, and I think, here's also another initial thought I had. You have just, as you stated, gone through 10 years. And if you've done it in 10 years, you've pretty much done the entire span of what it means to do the academic gauntlet that is the American conservatory system.
Yep.
And you've apparently run it as well as anybody runs it, because sometimes that gauntlet is difficult to get through in a stretch of time of 10 years.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm even considering now I heard that in it's not necessarily studying, it's actually going there to do research, but it's in coordination. So in all of this, as you go do research, are you planning on this turning out to be a book, some sort of, what's the result? Like a documentary, a paper? What's happening?
Well, I wish I could speak definitively as to what's going to happen, but my goal is to essentially have some sort of presentation of some sort that I do at NASA, or some sort of paper or document that I write up, depending on what I find. And I mean, I could find absolutely nothing. I could find so much that I write a complete book. I guess I'll let you know in 2 years when I'm done with everything.
Okay, so, perfect. I just had to get that on record just so that to track that, because I'm interested. I'm part of this is, I run this podcast, and the best part about this is that this satisfies my need to ask questions and get and I'm inquisitive, and I want to know. And I like being in the know. And so when I get a chance to ask questions, I like just throwing it out there. And from what I've heard from a few listeners, they like the fact I'm asking these questions. So I'm throwing it out there. But now that that's the case and everything else, what do you think? I mean, you're already used to world travel. I mean, a couple years ago, I remember one of my students was out there in Gap with you.
Yep.
You've done you've done other world tours and such. And is this something that you've always dreamed of, wanting to go to other countries and do this, what you're doing, or is this something that's developed?
It's definitely something that's developed. I hate to sound like a cliche, but I was raised in Nebraska, and I never thought that I would ever even move out of Nebraska. And here we are, and I've lived in Texas for 5 years now. So the whole interest in moving to Japan started on my first world tour with the Wind Ensemble. And I was in Japan and fell in love with the country. I fell in love with the people, and we played a concert at actually Senzoku Gakuen College of Music, where Professor Jerry Junkin is actually one of their guest conductors. And I was talking with the saxophone professor, Masato Ikegami. He played Alfred Reed's Ballade with us as one of the many encores that we had. So I was talking to him after our dress rehearsal, and he nonchalantly mentioned that I should come over and study. And I thought, I'm starting a doctorate, I don't really have any interest in going to Japan at this time. And that's kind of where we left it. And then the entire rest of the tour, I kept thinking about Japan. I got back to the States and kept thinking about his offer. And one day I was eating lunch outside of the school on a practice break, and I saw Professor Junkin. And I said, I have a question. If I decided I wanted to move to Japan and do some study, would you support me and help me along the way? And he was like, and being the gracious man he is, he said, of course, anything you need. And so I dropped all of the courses I was supposed to take for the first year of my doctorate and enrolled in freshman year Japanese. So the first year of my doctorate, I was enrolled in 2/3 Japanese credits and then saxophone lessons. So, and then it kind of all just unfolded from there. I started, trying to maintain as many contacts. When I was in Gap with your student, Connor, we met a lot of wonderful Japanese players that I was fortunate enough to see when I was back this last September. When I was there, I was in Korea playing a concert and then went to Japan to visit a bunch of them. And it's just kind of, I never would have thought it would have turned into something like this, but it all just seemed to kind of play out the way it was supposed to. And I worked pretty hard to make sure that this was something that I could do. And I never thought it would happen, but I'm equally excited to be, the first American to, quote unquote, formally study. So, which is great. And, John Winteringham, who I know that you've had on this show,
yes.
He's studied in Japan as well. So him and I have had a couple conversations about navigating the process of finding a teacher and how you kind of get in with the right teachers in Japan.
It's kind of interesting. I'm kind of working on this theory. It's kind of, and just seeing how things work in the world. And it's interesting how it's what your actions define what your destiny is. Like, in other words, it's interesting that you became interested and then you just decided, I'm going to go study Japanese. I'm not sure if it's going to turn out to anything, but it and even as you said, it was one of 5 different elements or different scholarships that you had applied for, grants, and the one that worked out here is the one through Japanese consulate, and you sit there and I just think it's so interesting that the very things that we set our minds to and when we do that, we set our actions to. All of a sudden, it seems to be it dictates the flow of the natural course of what your life is going towards. And I think that is so incredible, that story. And I I'm just thinking of like students that I've got right now. It's like, oh, what am I going to do? And I'm like, well, what are you doing? Like, what does interest you? What are you putting your situations you're putting yourself into that make that decision for you, like where you start gravitating towards? I mean, I have to say I felt it with this podcast. Like, no matter which way you look at it, I started this thing and I have a feeling it's going to snowball. And I can't even talk about it, but I'm enjoying now being somebody who can talk and communicate on a podcast. And you talked to me a few years ago, and this is something that I don't even think I would ever even trust myself doing at all. And then all of a sudden, all I did was just research it, found out what people do. I don't even know if before I did this how many podcasts I actually had listened to. And it's so interesting how that natural flow of the choice and looking out towards something that you want to do, how that works.
Well, all it took was why not me? Why can't I be the person? It's the well, I'll just let someone else do it, or I'm not good enough, or I'll blah. There are many excuses, but I finally just said, well, why not me? Why can't I go to Japan? I'm young. The cards are out in front of me, so why not at least try? I mean, I'm not going to lose anything by trying. And so my professor here, Dr. Page, his kind of motto is the harder I work, the luckier I seem to get. And that's kind of been something I've kind of adopted as my own these last 3 years. It's just like I'm just going to work, and then the next thing you know, there's a lot of really great opportunities coming my way, and it's the work, head down, and good things will happen. So, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and it's fun. It's fun to see that. I mean, I met you at the NASA conference we hosted here a while ago. I think 2010 or something like that, 2011, somewhere around that area, and here, and we've stayed in contact and tracked some of what's happening, and it's fun. It's fun to see, yes, that luck factor, and it's kind of interesting because I think people who aren't ready necessarily for the opportunity, they'll miss it because some of their choices aren't gearing towards. You can be lucky, but also you have to be ready.
Exactly.
And sounds like you're not only ready, you have taken full advantage of everything that your opportunities and the very things that have been placed in front of you, and even done exactly what the definition of it, what it is when you are really doing that doctorate and being, finding your own voice in our world, is that you're with this going out, learning the Japanese, making it a point, and now you're going. It's the very definition of what it means to actually live out your studies and what that is. And so congratulations to you. And for taking that opportunity. And again, look, we got a lot of students out there who are listening, and I always try to keep an educational kind of spin on this, and I love that. I'm kind of poking and prodding on this because I know there's some people out there that are listening right now that you're doing exactly what I said. You're just going, I don't even know what I'm doing. And I think once we see models like what Dr. Mertens is doing right now, I think what happens is that we get inspired to keep going and find and keep searching every day and finding out what it is, but also don't stop. Like in the middle of it, while you're figuring it out, I love that it's about keeping your head down and focused and keep on doing what you do. For sure.
And and there were multiple times throughout the process. It's funny because this grant, the scholarship that I won with the Japanese government 3 days before the deadline, I called my best friend and I said, I don't want to do this. I have too much work to do. I have too many other things going on. I'm just not going to apply. Japan was a great dream, but it's not happening. And I was pretty discouraged after spending so much time writing the other grants and not winning, that I was like, I'm done. I'm giving up. And she said, what does it cost to apply? I said, nothing. And she said, finish the application. Just do it. And I begrudgingly finished the application. And here I am, 9 months later as a recipient of it, and I didn't even want to do it. So, maybe I should have heard my own advice and just kept working,
Yeah, and I think that's good advice that maybe sometimes, folks, we just, like sometimes it's good to have a devil's advocate, sitting on one shoulder and the angel on the other and start listening to internal dialogue. And sometimes it's better just to tune it out and just go get it done. Because check that out. This is 3 days before you do that. And if you didn't have that encouragement to go and just get it done and go, it's amazing what could happen. You lose that opportunity that quite clearly would have, could very well define. It's going to define 2 years of your experience now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, who knew that 15-page application would turn into like literally a life-changing document? So, I mean, yeah,
right. And the best part about it is that if there's anything that you're going to get a perspective that's different, that a lot of us don't have, and that's something that's very special and much appreciated because there's a lot of us that continue to want to know this world of saxophone is growing and growing and growing and growing and growing, and that it's just one niche of this world that seems to have it figured out and in a way that a lot of us want to know. Another thing is I would love to see more recordings that are done in Japan make its way to the States.
I agree 100%. Every time I'm there, I stock up on recordings. Like there's so many. Saxophone orchestras. They have saxophone orchestras who have recorded all these CDs that we don't know about in the States, or quartets we don't know about, or even soloists that we've never heard of that are, just as famous in Japan as, Sugawa and Kumoi, but their international recognition is a little bit less than theirs, but they're still monster players, and their students are all incredible, teachers and performers, and there's no reason why we shouldn't know about them in the States or even out of the States.
And even the repertoire, the intense amount of repertoire. I know that they have so much. There's transcribing that's going on all the time over there, and some of the best transcriptions I've ever heard have come out of Japan. And then not only that, like just the great compositions and the amount of composers that are working on saxophone music. I dare to say that we may only know about 3% of the music due to publications and it having an international flavor. In fact, Sugawa was the one who's really brought most of that, type of international literature to the stage. But we've missed so much.
Yeah.
And
even Sugawa, who's so well respected, all over the world and has a fairly large presence in America. When I was just back in Japan, I found 2 CDs that I didn't even know he had released. That, as far as I know, I haven't seen in the States at all. So it's, even someone who we think is that international, and there were still some resources that we didn't know about here. So
I think, and this is where. This is really something that I'm very interested in, and I know our listeners would be interested in, and maybe there can be a little pipeline that we can set up or something to get some of these recordings to the States,
or at least let people know that these recordings exist. Everyone's looking for
exactly.
The 14th recording of the Tomasi Concerto, and maybe that 14th recording's in Japan. So when I get there, hopefully I'll be setting up a travel blog to kind of document some of the stuff that I'm getting along the way. So when I get that all set up, I'll be sure to forward that on to you.
Yeah, please do, and I'll let the listeners certainly let the listeners know about what is happening. In fact, that is a good place to transition. And just do you mind letting everybody know currently where they can find you, and maybe follow along your travels?
Yeah. Obviously, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of those normal places. Just if you search Nathan Mertens, you'll go ahead and find me there. I also have a website that has a lot of recordings, SoundCloud. That's where I'm going to basically be professionally, and then as soon as I have the blog set up, I'll go ahead and link that to all of those accounts, so that way people can keep up with what's going on, and I'm not bombarding Facebook with all of my findings. So it'll just be for whoever's interested can go find that on my website.
That is fantastic, and so we will definitely be following, and I will be very interested in reading some of your blogs, and I know that the person who you will be with, Masato Kamoi, I have gained a huge amount of respect ever since John Winteringham has turned me on to his playing and who he is, and I have to say that is a person I would love to meet one of these days, and I have such a high respect for him, and so I wish you all of the best over there, and really, my ears are burning for when we get to talk again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You bet. And so, folks, you can reach us at the Modern Sax on Twitter, Facebook. Please like our page and so you can get all the juicy updates on our releases. You also find us on iTunes and subscribe so that you get all that. But you can also do that in the Google Play Store, and also another app I found that I like is Stitcher. We're on there now, and so thanks a lot for tuning in, yeah, let's get practicing.
Sounds good.